Hey everyone, Action here. Today we'll be covering up the new patch 4.0.14 and all the changes it gives. Now I know this isn't a major patch, however the changes introduced by this one are massive and is gonna have an impact on all of your playthroughs some way or the other. So what I want to talk about here first is the changes they did to splitting up telepaths and enforcers, because well, there was some really powerful exploits that you could just basically build the enforcer building and have telepaths instead of enforcers, each one improving their own output by plus 10%. So in the end you'd have massive amounts of resources by just stacking up a bunch of telepaths. The other exploit that was fixed was the dictatorial cyber vision enforcers, because they would improve the resource production from specialists by a certain percentage. However, this percentage improved their own resource production percentage, so it scaled off infinitely, producing loads and loads of resources. It even came to a point that people were having an overflow of Unity production, for instance, and instead of earning Unity, they were losing because they were producing so much. Basically, the clock went the other way around. We are almost reaching our mission objective. There are 200 commanders remaining for us to complete it, and it would actually be insane if we complete it before the end of the month. So join us and let us fight the crisis together. However, talking about the regular gameplay changes, we have so many good ones. The first and most important one is that non-Justal empires can now build solar panels on their starbases. So here, for instance, we have our own playthrough that I am currently playing. In our last video we were just playing this one, and if we look at this, all of our starbases have anchorages, but now we can build a solar panel network just like a regular hive mind or machine intelligence. Now this is huge because we were only locked in by the trade hubs, which are very inefficient at producing energy, because every trade point nowadays only yields 0.5 energy, so this trade hub is actually worth 4 energy credits per month and it still has an upkeep of 1, whereas the solar panel does not have a single bit of upkeep and has a base production of 6, so a little bit better, and as you can see here it has many more modifiers to it than the trade. So it's a very good change, especially in the early game, and even more so if you are running machine individualistic empires, because those empires rely a lot of energy, and back then you were in a disadvantage compared to machine intelligence that could use the solar panels. The other way is also valid. Justal empires can now build trade modules on their starbases. Now this is very huge for those that like playing Justals, because trade was actually a very big issue with these empires. Now that trade is a commodity that you must have in all of your playthroughs, you cannot stay out of it. Justal empires had a very poor production of trade, but they can now offset this a little bit using their starbases. However, they will still suffer a little bit since they won't be using those starbases to produce something like energy. And now talking back at the telepaths, they refactored the psionic pop output from telepaths to be on the Psycorp building instead. This is what I thought they were gonna do because it's the simplest approach. I don't think they're gonna mess up with the psionics before the psionic DLC. I think they're holding back and making the easiest decisions here, but I kinda like this one. It synchronizes very well with the biogenesis ascension, since we have the extra pop efficiency from the medical centers. Now they have correctly introduced job efficiency for psionics, mechanical, cyborg and organic pops as they were intended before. This has a massive effect on your output, because in the previous patch before this update we could have the Waterlord trait for every single one of our leaders, and that would improve the output of even the biological pops. Now it is more balanced, makes more sense. The Waterlord trait only benefits cybernetic and mechanical pops just as it did before, the same thing is also valid for traits that improved the psionic pop resource output, and after the 4.0 it started improving the output of every single pop in the game. And now talking about, for me at least, one of the most important changes in this patch, which is the Empire limit for Fallen Empire buildings. So before, we could actually have an infinite amount of buildings across all of our empires. Here you can see on Nest Primus, our capital, we have just a massive amount of Fallen Empire research buildings that were kinda skyrocketing our tech at 64,000 currently. Those buildings are tremendously powerful. However, what is gonna happen now is that you'll have a cap, just like you can see here that we have a planet limit of 3, however we have 9. Whoa, action, how do you have 9 if the planet limit is 3? Well, my friends, what happens is this playthrough, this save at least, is from the previous patch, so when I load it in, it got all the 9 buildings. However, if I start playing a little bit and just let the month passes, you're gonna see that all of our buildings will magically disappear, just like that. And with this, our tech output greatly reduced, our naval capacity as well, because we had loads and loads of bastions in our planets, and our economy now is dwindling. So yeah, this is something you need to be aware of if you are going to continue one of your playthroughs. Now, what are the actual impacts of this? So for regular empires that have not picked either the Enigmatic Engineering or the Cosmogenesis Ascension perk, you have a base limit of 3 Fallen Empire buildings, and that includes all Fallen Empire buildings in the game. So if you have a, let's say, class 4 singularity in one of your planets that you acquired through the reverse engineering manual artifact decision, well, my friend, you're gonna have only 2 more slots across all of your empire. So here you saw that we had a planet limit of 3. That was the case because we had the Enigmatic Engineering Ascension perk. Now, if you don't have this Ascension perk, you'll sit at a base limit of 3 for your entire empire. But since we have it, here it says we have a small chance of drawing the Fallen Empire buildings technologies, but the tooltip that you can only build 3 in our planets has not been introduced yet. Perhaps in the future the devs are gonna change it. The other way of acquiring Fallen Empire buildings is by reverse engineering arcane technology. In this case, we gain the capacity to build a omnivident administration, which is basically the unity building for the Fallen Empire. And we have an empire limit of 1 of these. High Command is now accepting applications for naval officers in higher ranks for anyone who wants to be part of something greater. Our patron now has 4 tiers, ranging from officer corps to sector governors. The higher the tier, the more prerogatives you will have. At the highest level, on top of having full civilian and military authority over an entire sector, you'll get access to a monthly strategic counseling that will help you improve your gameplay. If you'd like to know more, I will leave the link in the description down below. Now, for those that have the Cosmogenesis Ascension perk, instead of having a planetary limit of only 3 Fallen Empire buildings, your planetary limit will be of 6. So a little bit more efficient than the Enigmatic Engineering, however much more limited than in the previous update. The devs also said that it is in their intention to replace this system with a system that turns Fallen Empire building stacks into repeatable technologies that base the maximum number of how many you can have be tied to the number of how many repeatables you have researched. So what they're saying is that in the future they are exploring the possibility of adding a planetary limit cap increase for your repeatables technologies. So here we have a planetary limit of 3. Perhaps in the future we can research a repeatable, probably in the society field, that will increase this planetary limit by +1 or +2 or +3. I don't know how they're gonna balance it. For me, personally, I would think that increasing it by 1 for every repeatable would be a pretty reasonable amount, and I would also make it available for regular empires to research this option. However, it is quite dubious, just one sentence from them, which is this one, I don't really know if they are gonna turn all of the Fallen Empire buildings into repeatable technologies. I hope they don't, because it is a feature exclusively to the enigmatic engineering and the cosmogenesis. However, I see a world where they implement this, the Fallen Empire buildings being available to all empires after they have researched all the technologies, at least all the technologies from the base game, not including the rare technologies from events and Leviathans, for instance. So yeah, this is the major change in this patch. There is also some changes to bug fixes, which will basically improve the stability and the performance, since we had a ton of modifiers and tooltips that weren't correct, just like the stability from Byzantine Bureaucracy not applying. I personally did not even know about this bug, and I even used the Byzantine Bureaucracy thinking about the stability. So yeah. Thankfully they fixed it, and I wonder how many other bugs there are in the game not applying correctly and that we don't know about. So yeah, it's a quite interesting period we are in, to say it that way. And there are also some changes to AI, so they can be a little more powerful in the current meta, because I'm gonna tell you, the AI completely sucks at the moment. So that's gonna be it for today's video, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick update on the new patch. It was a small patch, however it brought up so many changes, and for those of you that follow our playthroughs, we are gonna stop this run right here, just because our economy got completely destroyed from this update. We are losing so much energy, our tech basically halved, and we are facing a 25 times contingency, which is no joke. So this playthrough has come to an end, not an end that I would want to, but an end nonetheless. So that's gonna be it, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.